I think it's very important to remember that this has been the Biden-Harris agenda. Kamala Harris has been an integral architect and executor of the policies of the Biden-Harris administration. But this notion that she somehow doesn't deserve credit for and isn't part of and wasn't an integral architect of the Biden-Harris administration agenda is not only false, it's frankly somewhat bizarre and offensive.
How much does it bother you that Vice President Harris might soon, for political reasons, start to distance herself from your economic?
She's not going to.
You don't think she's going to?
Mr. President, when will the Vice President hold a news conference? When will the Vice President hold a news conference? You have to ask her.
And also certain sedans.
All right, so a little difficult to hear there, but the president was asked about Harris reportedly trying to distance herself from some of his policies. He said she's not going to. The president, joined there by Martin Sheen, who played a president in the West Wing, also you saw on your left-hand side of the screen, was asked about the negotiations today in the Middle East and said, fingers crossed, there will be a hostage deal. CBS News 24/7 is next. Much more to come this afternoon on today's top stories.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I got to tell you guys, you better get your popcorn ready. Get your popcorn ready because there's about to be some fireworks at the DNC in Chicago next week because the pro-Palestinian protesters are showing up, and some estimates have as many as 100,000 of them coming to town to protest the Democrat Party during the Democrat National Convention.
Palestinian protesters say they've rallied in Chicago every week since the war in Gaza began.
And organizers are planning their largest demonstrations during the DNC, even though they have yet to reach an agreement with the city on the route. WGN's Sean Lewis has the latest from a meeting today at Navy Pier.
Well, good evening. Upwards of 100,000 protesters expected in the city of Chicago when the Democratic National Convention convenes 1 week from tonight at the United Center. At Navy Pier, a morning press conference led by 4 Muslim organizations ahead of planned protests during the Democratic National Convention.
The streets will be flooded with thousands of peaceful protesters from all over the country to condemn the horrifying scenes that have come out of Gaza.
Palestine will be free! 3 official protests are planned, the largest of them expected on the first and last days of the convention. More than 150 organizations from around the country say they have formed a collective to have these protests be large in numbers. And while some estimates put that crowd at around 25,000, others believe it could swell to much more than that. Tomorrow, another hearing in federal court may decide the route of a march near the United Center next Monday starting at 5 p.m., the first night of the convention.
It should not have come to that.
The months-long legal battle has enraged organizers as the city pushed back on a preferred route. The city, right now, offering a route beginning in Union Park west to another park just north of the United Center and turning back. All of it, the groups say, will be focused on the Israeli-Palestinian war and the president's response.
The president has an opportunity before his term is over and to leave a good legacy after him, that he was able to bring some kind of peace to the region.
With Kamala Harris, we are very hopeful, especially in the selection of the vice presidential candidates. She gives us some hope.
Now, Joy Reid is panicking over this, okay? And the reason why she's panicking over this is because she knows that these individuals could be the difference between an election victory or an election loss for Kamala Harris, okay? And this is why she has taken to her network to sound the alarm, to issue Kamala Harris a dire warning that she better figure it out when it comes to this issue of Israel and Gaza, or else there's going to be some problems, right? There's going to be some huge problems, and I want to react to it because Joy Reid is going to admit the quiet part out loud about the Biden-Harris administration, something that Kamala Harris is currently trying to run away from on the campaign trail. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Early Saturday, an Israeli airstrike hit a school serving as a shelter in Gaza, killing at least 100 people and wounding nearly 50 others, according to Palestinian health authorities. On the same day as the strike, Vice President Kamala Harris condemned the loss of civilian life.
Yet again, there are far too many civilians who have been killed. I mean, Israel has a right to go after the terrorists that are Hamas, but as I have said many, many times, they also have, I believe, an important responsibility to avoid civilian casualties.
Uncommitted and anti-war voters see a reset with Harris on Israel and Gaza. Her language is different, capable of moving the needle and gaining favor with some of the voters who rejected President Biden over his stance on the region. But language is not enough. This was a school serving as a shelter for refugees of war, attacked during morning prayers. Witnesses said children, women, and old people were inside, sleeping, and that the school was hit without an evacuation warning from the IDF. President Biden has faced months of public pressure to cut off the supply of weapons to Israel amid its war on Gaza, which has killed about 40,000 people since October. It's why the squad, all elected officials of color, are demanding a ceasefire, despite being targeted for removal from office by staunch supporters of the Netanyahu government and the ongoing bombardment of Gaza.
Well, you can tell that Joy Reid is salty about Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman getting removed from Congress, right? They got kicked out after they got voted out in a Democrat primary by pro-Israel Democrats, okay? They were funded by AIPAC, and they ended up beating Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman. However, here's the issue, okay? If Jamal Bowman and Cory Bush were actually good at their jobs, okay, if they spent less time race hustling, if they spent less time pointing the finger at the other side and crying white supremacy and racism and sexism and bigotry, then they probably would not have lost, right? I mean, they probably would not have AIPAC challenge them because they would probably be hard to beat, okay? I mean, you know, people can get mad at AIPAC all they want for buying our elections, but what they really do is that they target individuals who are otherwise weak congressmen and women that just happen to not be pro-Israel, and they try to get them voted out, right? This is what they do. Now, if you're strong, if you're focused on the issues, right, that American people actually care about, then, you know, it's going to be hard to be beat, okay? Even if AIPAC tries to buy the election, it's not a guaranteed victory, okay? But again, when you are terrible, like Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman was, then, hey, at the end of the day, you become vulnerable, and it just so happens that they lost their seat. You know, it is what it is. It's not something I necessarily support, okay? But to just blame it on AIPAC, I think, is not telling the whole story. Okay, you're not putting responsibility on Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman over the fact that, hey, ultimately they got voted out, right? Ultimately, the people said, hey, you're not doing a good enough job. And we probably don't agree with you all the way on this issue either.
The world is on edge right now, and rightly so. The U.S. is sending more troops to the Middle East to bolster defenses as Israel braces for an attack by Iran. So far, Vice President Harris has shown herself to be better positioned than President Biden to bring the party together on this issue. But we have to remember, Harris is still the vice president serving in the Biden administration. So her policy, should it differ from Biden's, isn't anything that she can implement now. Though it's absolutely fair for people to ask, why are we giving bombs to Israel? And would she keep that policy in place as president? These questions will surely be visible during the Democratic National Convention next week.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Joy Reid is basically saying, look, Kamala Harris needs to answer some questions, okay? She says that her policies, should they differ from Joe Biden's, isn't anything that she can implement now. However, I disagree with that, because ultimately at the end of the day, if her and Biden are on the same page, which they are, there's no indication that they're not, that they want a ceasefire, except they're not willing to do exactly what it takes to get a ceasefire, right? They're not willing to actually do that. Yeah, she hasn't shown that she can actually lead the negotiations, or she is somebody that is integral to what is actually happening, right? If she had the ability to get a ceasefire, considering the dire constraints that the Democrat Party is in over the fact that you have the base of the party revolting, actively rioting against the party over this issue, you would think that if she really had the chops like that, then she would get it done. But the fact that she hasn't got it done, the fact that she's not leading any type of negotiations, she's not brokering any type of peace, she's not doing any of that. She's just going along with the status quo, going along with whatever Biden is trying to do, and that's her stance. So my question to people like Joy Reid is that, why is it that when it comes to this issue, why are you demanding answers in regards to what she believes on a foreign conflict, but you're not demanding answers to what she believes when it comes to domestic policies? See, that's the thing that bothers me about these people on the left. you're demanding answers for the wrong damn things. Honestly, I really don't give that much of a damn about what Kamala Harris believes about Israel and Palestine, because ultimately they're all pro-Israel, okay? They're all, at the end of the day, going to side with Israel. I don't care what she says, okay? As long as the money's flowing, yeah, that's exactly who she's siding with. So, honestly, I'm not even like remotely interested in her opinion on that issue. And this idea that somehow she's going to be different than Biden is just ludicrous. And they're trying to work out a ceasefire agreement now with Netanyahu, which, again, I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen, okay? Because Netanyahu is a shrewd politician, okay? I mean, this guy, when he came over here, he gave that speech talking about KFC. I mean, this guy literally has studied America probably more than a lot of our own politicians, okay? I wouldn't be surprised this guy knows a lot more about this country than, again, people that are sitting in office, okay, in the United States of America. He knows what he's doing. Considering how the Biden-Harris administration has at least low-key been a pain in his butt in regards to their public stances that are overtly anti-Israel and the anti-Semitism on the left, this guy probably has made the calculation that, you know what, hey, it's probably best to not do any type of ceasefire until at least after the election, okay? Because if Trump wins, Netanyahu probably will much rather deal with Trump than to deal with Biden and Kamala Harris. I mean, let's be real. Let's be real. You probably have a better chance of getting a ceasefire under Trump than with the Biden-Harris administration, because I really do not think that Netanyahu likes dealing with them, right? They don't like the anti-Israel side of the Democrat Party. So when you're dealing with a Republican, on the other hand, it's a little bit different, because Republicans, they don't have a base of voters that are extremely pro-Palestine, right? If anything, most Republicans are probably pretty much pro-Israel. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people on the right that are pretty much very anti-Israel. But again, it's not the same, right? It's not the same type of opposition that the Democrat Party has to deal with. So if I'm Netanyahu, I'm looking at this strategically in the sense that, hey, you know, which politician am I going to have an easier time dealing with? And I think, personally, it's probably Trump, which is why I think that Trump probably is going to be more likely to get a ceasefire deal. However, that ceasefire deal definitely probably is going to be very much in favor of Israel, okay? They're probably going to be willing to go further in regards to allowing Israel more leverage to get what they want than the Biden-Harris administration, right? That's just my calculation in all this, because I honestly think that ultimately Israel is going to try to take most of that land. Right? That's what they're going to do. I think everybody knows it. It's just about when, how much. It's not really about if, it's about when and how much. That's the reality of the situation.
And how the party answers could impact the election, not to mention the lives of so many Palestinians who have suffered for much too long. For God's sake, this needs to end. And that is tonight's read.
Yeah, I don't think that Kamala Harris is going to end it. I don't think she has the ability to. Okay, I think that the Democrat Party has overplayed their hand when it comes to that conflict. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we will see how the pro-Palestinians react at the DNC. Okay, we're going to see how much they really disagree with the Democrat Party in their stances, because I'm telling you, if they could get a ceasefire, they would have gotten one by now. They've tried. They just can't do it. They don't have the ability to do it. And they're not willing to actually hold Israel's feet to the fire in regards to what it takes to get a ceasefire, which would be to pull aid, right? If the Biden administration and Kamala Harris actually really wanted to get a ceasefire, they would cut off aid. Hey, listen, we're just not going to give you aid anymore, right? You can fight the war if you want. We're just not going to give you aid. So if that's what you want to do, go for it. But we're not going to support it, right? This is what they could do, but they're not doing that, right? Why are they not doing that? It's because they don't have the leverage to do it, and they know that the amount of backlash they would get domestically for it would be an absolute disaster for the Democrat Party, right? So there are really no good answers for the Democrats when it comes to this situation. And, you know, hey, it is what it is. This is what they deserve, because ultimately, at the end of the day, they're a party that are composed of victimhood, okay? And it seems as if the victimhood coalition, all of the little subgroups, they don't have the same priorities, right? They don't all agree on the same things, right? So Democrats have to walk the fine line of trying to not upset the victims, okay? And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's not something that you can do for very long, which is why they try so hard to focus on Trump, because if the focus is on the Democrats and what they wanted to do, they would fall apart, right? They would fall apart. So we'll see, right? We'll see what Kamala Harris says at the DNC. We'll see if the pro-Palestinians show up en masse. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.